I turn to on healing. Do you have the book, Healing the Unhealed Mind, on page 90?
All right, and we're live on YouTube. So welcome. And we're here for reading Ken Wapnick and
Healing. Do you have the book, Healing the Unhealed Mind?
Healing the Unhealed Mind? Sure. Hang on. All right, and we're live on
Page
YouTube.
90. Now, here's the thing, like the unhealed mind, healing the unhealed mind, but I guess that's just like saying letting the ego down lightly because there's no unhealed mind. Well, I think there is, but you know what I'm saying.
Let's see. So yeah, you guys are on. So
All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I am reading Healing the Unhealed Mind, and it's on page 90 if you have the book. And it's fulfilling roles while believing nothing is outside us. And I should say, like, it's really knowing there's nothing outside of us. Like, you get to a point where belief is already, that's how it's introduced. But that's, Marcy and I talked about that. Like, I know it took me years to get basically that it's never been anyone but me. So, it's kind of interesting how, the subconscious mind works, and the healing comes really from right-mindedness, but that's coming pretty much the unconscious, the spirit has to just let go of all of it. And it has to be, oh, you have it. Okay. All right. Well, I have it here. So question, what trumps everything, and you just said it a few minutes ago, is that there literally is no world. Now, this is something that I absolutely 100% realized on Sunday. There can't be a world. And it's only that the me, that spirit, believing I'm this character, is dreaming about Sharon and challenged about letting her go, but she's never really been there. And I guess there was some kind of addiction to the character. So he said, what trumps everything you said is a few minutes ago is that there's literally no world. I can't keep my mind off that. Not that I want to be in the denial, not brush my teeth, etc. So he's answering this because I think what Ken wants us to always do is be honest where we are. There's no race. Every one of us, it's one mind that's dreaming, one light. And that's it. And it's a matrix. So he's asking, he's saying to the questioner, that is very helpful. We should always hold that awareness somewhere in our minds, for we are kept on the straight and narrow by never forgetting that there's no world out there. So it's all about responsibility for sight. It's all about realizing that no one's ever done anything to you. And if my attention goes to politics, then I'm actually bringing that on, because what's happened for this mind is I've lost interest. It's just so ridiculous at this point to me. If there's no world and the ridiculous things that are going on, I don't have that anger. I just have an idea that this is a phenomena. It's always, the story's all about the sinner and the saint. And when you look, I had my own version of sinner and my own version of saint, right? So he's saying this means that anything we are feeling in relationship to the world must be a projection. It is the same as when we dream at night. Now, today it was funny because I fell back to sleep this morning and I had a dream about somebody in my past that was probably like, 30 years ago or more, that was in cahoots with my husband, my ex-husband, about hiding money. And she came up in my dream and she wasn't saying, I said, hi, Joy, in my dream. And she just turned her face. And I thought, as the character in the dream, I thought, she's turning her face on me. So then I woke up and realized that that's still a grievance. It's still happening somewhere in the subconscious, because if you see it, it's yours. So lots of things are going on while we are asleep, but in reality, nothing is happening. It's so realistic, this dream, and there's such a desire for it to be real because of the fear. It has to be that, because every day, if we really look what we do the same thing every single day. Our thoughts come in the same, might be a new character in the thought system, but there's nothing here that isn't repeated over and over. But because of the hypnosis that I'm in, I don't always see that. And now there was just this realization in the last 2 weeks completely that no matter, no matter how much I wanted to blame someone, there's no one to blame because this is my dream. So lots of things are going on while we're asleep. It's all projection coming from our mind or brain and images we call dreams. But the entire world is a dream. Remember, perception is interpretation, and that is really the whole point. It's not so much as what's projected out there, it's the meaning that I'm giving to it. And what's going on for me, meaning seems to be falling away. Therefore, everything we experience in the world around us is coming from within. It has to be that way because there's nothing outside us. And this is something that I used as a mantra. Ideas leave not their source. This is why that idea trumps everything. It is what keeps us clear that the problem is never in the world, but in the mind that made the world. So we just have it's a matrix of just faces, and we believe these images are real. And there's a desire, at least for this mind, for years and years, that subconscious, that I wanted it to be real. And it had to be coming from fear. Because who wouldn't want the grace of God? Because grace is all that's here. Anyway, you want to read the next one, Morris? In my profession of computer.
Sure, I got it.
Okay.
In my profession, pardon?
Oh, no, I said nothing.
Okay. In my profession of computers, in the world of illusion where everybody is very serious about their problems, I go into a serious situation and tend to walk in whistling that everything is okay because it is all an illusion. I still do my job and fix the problem, but underneath I know that it is not about that. The answer, that's right. And if you really know that, you won't get anxious, angry, or frustrated. You won't get elated when you solve the problem. You will be even and calm throughout. This will be how you know that you are not mouthing the words that the world is an illusion. Knowing this enables you to be with anyone, do anything, be in any part of the world, and still be peaceful. It does not matter because everything is the same. You have honored that New Year's resolution. Make this year different by making it all the same, because you know the problem is not out there, but in there, the mind. Whatever knowledge and expertise you have that helps you solve problems, whether as a therapist or a computer whiz, becomes an excuse for you to teach what you are learning and reinforce its truth in yourself. That is the true meaning of helping others. The teaching comes by being peaceful and defenseless. And the minute you find yourself becoming frustrated or angry, you know you have made the world real again. The mistake. When you catch yourself in that ego trap, simply smile at yourself and say, oops, I did it again. That's all. Any comments from anybody? Okay, I can keep going.
He always wanted us to go very easy on ourselves, because the
Yeah.
ego is the part that will absolutely call us stupid and everything else. So, yeah.
Yeah. Moreover, you will probably find that you actually get better at your job as a computer programmer. What makes you an effective programmer is your anxiety, self-hatred, hatred of others, resentment of what you are being asked to do, and whatever other ego thoughts you have. By getting the ego thoughts out of the way, you have made room for love to come through you and make you a fine programmer, therapist, housewife, parent, child, bricklayer, etc. Regardless of the disparate forms of our many roles, love is the constant content. And it's kind of funny to me, there's that song, Oops, I Did It Again, popular song at least. And when we say that, we don't want to say it with seriousness. Like, oh, I did it again, It's just, oops, I did it again. Still doing the ego. Shall I continue reading?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Right-minded healing, false versus true empathy. How does one right-mindedly see someone who appears to be in a pretty bad situation, like returning from the war with post-traumatic stress disorder? I see their pain. I know their minds are choosing fear that manifests as symptoms, but at the same time, the Course teaches that on another level, all that is part of ourself. I get confused with these different levels. As a neuropsychologist, you deal with people with traumatic symptoms, vets returning from Iraq with brain injuries and the like. Certainly, if you are a professional with expertise in a certain area, you respond in a way appropriate to your role. On one level, you use your training and experience to make an evaluation about the extent of the injury, the prognosis, and a useful course of treatment, including working with the family. This is no different from a plumber making an assessment about a plumbing problem in a home or a business and then proceeding to correct it. On another level, at the same time you proceed professionally, you use the situation as a way of monitoring your own thoughts. You watch yourself becoming horrified by the situation. Perhaps particular symptom is abhorrent to you, or you become impatient with the person, angry at the system that does not allow proper care or treatment, or even angry at the president who declared war, thus is ultimately responsible for the terrible effects. Whatever your ego reactions, this is what you pay attention to. In Roman mythology, the god Janus is depicted with two heads, one looking east, one looking west. In a sense, Jesus is asking us to have this kind of split vision. Looking one way, we honor and respect our professionalism and deal with the situation on this level. Looking the other way, we monitor our reactions, and if we are feeling anything but peace, perceiving and feeling anything other than shared interest in terms of ourselves and the patient, even though on a bodily level there is a big difference, then we know we have to ask for help, because now we are as sick as the person whom we are trying to help. So I have, just to paraphrase, I'm seeing my my accusations of myself and that other person. And I lost my spot here. By virtue, hang on. False empathy identifies with the patient's weakness or problem, the body, isolating the person from others, including ourselves, by virtue of the horrific symptoms that clearly make patient and their problems unique and special. True empathy identifies with our common purpose. We emphasize with the patient's mind, which suffers from the effects of the insane belief in separation, as we all do. This shared mind contains the weakness of the ego, the strength of the Holy Spirit, and the power to choose between them. And just to say, on the side, I have a family member who's staying here while recuperating from something. And you know, I have all my judgments. I'm here to be helpful, but I still have my judgments, and they're all about me. Surprise, surprise. To digress for a moment, the pamphlet on psychotherapy, which I mentioned before, was only half finished when I first read it. I was obviously expecting something that would talk about psychotherapy, at least as I experienced it as the therapist. Of course, it doesn't do all that at all. Its focus is only on the therapist. I remember saying something to Helen to that effect. And she looked at me and said, "What else would you expect?" Which of course was true. There is one line in the pamphlet that sums it up, and it is so important that the idea is repeated in the very next paragraph. It is in the instant that the therapist forgets to judge the patient that healing occurs. This says nothing about the patient, nothing about the course of psychotherapy, nothing about technique, nothing about training in the usual sense of the word. The second statement, yet it is when judgment ceases that healing occurs, means that therapists with healed minds do not see their patients as separate from themselves. When we see someone who has a profound neurosis or brain injury, hello, here I am, it is tempting to see a difference and judge that difference, even if it is a benign judgment. Oh, you poor dear, let me help you. Okay, I'll keep going. When the therapist forgets to judge, forgets to see separate interests, and sees only the sameness of the mind, that is healing and true empathy. As a therapist or healer in any shape or form, professional or not, when you find yourself making a judgment that the person sitting across from you is different, not in form, which is obvious, but in content, you realize that your mind is unhealed and you are an unhealed healer. At that point, anything you do will be contaminated by what is unhealed in you, which is the belief that separation is real, made serious by your sleeping guilt and misperception of your patient or relative or friend or doctor, etc. That I included. This is a false empathy. Being a psychotherapist, neuropsychologist, or any other role has as its sole purpose learning to heal your mind through that form, which means it is the opportunity to undo your belief in guilt. If you do not see it that way, you will be caught in specialness and will think you are doing something important, significant, and healing. What then is to be done? There is nothing to be done. Healing has already occurred and needs only to be accepted. So, what was the quote I was saying this morning, Sharon?
Oh, I forget. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, it was all about projection at any rate.
Yeah, it's
And
about projection. And the
yeah,
thing
it's all
is,
about
like,
projection.
he's only
So,
talking to the one son. He's not
right,
talking to a therapist. So it's just like
right.
we're
Oh,
all healers.
yeah, go
Right.
ahead.
Now, I was just going to say, we're all healers, we're all teachers, and there's only one here. So it's spirit that has to
Yeah,
get this, because,
yeah.
I went to therapy for years. I mean, I used to identify with Woody Allen.
Mhm.
I mean, and so did my whole family, and I look back in memory, I can remember my mother never saying hello. She'd say, "What's wrong?"
Yeah,
So, so there always had to be something wrong. So the thing about there's four of us, four girls. We all tend to have a little neurosis from not just that, just from the world, but it's also
right.
like our dreams. So it's like our story about ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. The quote I was thinking of is I am not what we were talking about this morning. I am never upset for the reason I think. And
Yes.
I just found it comical because, almost every day I think of a quote from the course or I read something and I try to make it not, like in the past, I'd make it not about me. And this one was like, oh, I'm not upset for the reason I think because that's just my perception. And my perception is wrong. Marcy's
Yeah, 'cause it's
perception is
nothing.
wrong.
Yeah, it's absolutely nothing.
Right. Right. Nothing's really happening, but I've got a screen and a movie going, and
But it takes a while to unwind the mind,
Yeah.
and it's not at the personal level. This is coming from the higher mind. So it's like one sun is waking up. So just like popcorn popping when you make Jiffy Pop, and it pops this one and pops that kernel. And that's really how it's happening. So to just realize that you can't mess this up because it's perfectly scripted and everyone is playing their perfect part.
Yeah.
And if you
That's
forget, who forgets? It's only, the
Yeah.
spirit is always here. So it doesn't, if you forget, it's just the talking mind, the talking head that's chatting about everything that's not even real.
Yeah.
To keep us mindless. That's basically what it's doing. It's keeping us in hell.
Right.
And yeah,
And the fact
it's
that
not,
every experience is for my benefit.
yeah, and I never
That's
got that. I mean, I was,
that was a tough one, but I get it. Something gets it. The truth gets it. It's like
right.
how
But the character, like for me, it was always like, well, it's this, it's that, because depending on when readiness comes in, and there's stages
Right.
of readiness. That's what I see. Hi,
Right.
Regis and Donna. If you want
Morning,
to
Regis.
share, share. I
Yeah,
don't know.
jump in.
Hop in. Okay. So, okay. So did you finish? Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll read this one.
Okay.
Questioner, does that mean that once therapists have healed their own minds, they are not helpful to anyone? He answered, no. Actually, it is only then that the therapist begins to be really helpful. On a practical level, you don't take your shingles down. After all, you still have to eat. Your healed mind deepens the level of healing on 8 burners instead of 4. Now, what does that mean? Healing in 8 burners? I guess it's just that revved up the heat, right? you know,
Sharon, would
yeah,
that be
that's in the
we
answer.
look at I have my 4 burners going, but because I've projected onto somebody else, it doubles.
Right. And then it's gone. You can't even, yeah. The love in your healed mind now can flow through you without impediment. So it's kind of like, a lot of, for me, I was a passive learner in a lot of spiritual teachings because I knew it was happening on its own. However, like I say, you're not picking this Course in Miracles. It picked you because it's all spirit, it's all God, it's all divine guidance. So here's another one. Do you want to take that one more? It's a long one. So if you want me to take it, I'll share it with you.
I'll start it.
Okay.
So are we on one of the hard parts about what you were saying?
No, we switched to 98. One of the hard parts about what you're saying. This is the questioner again.
Oh yeah, that's where I was.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
okay.
right.
It's okay, no problem. One of the hard parts about what you are saying is when you are quoting the line that talks about judgment, in parentheses, healing occurs when the therapist forgets to judge his patient. End of quote. I think of judgment as condemnation. My typical reaction is, what a horrible situation you've been through. And I feel very bad for them. I know that it's a judgment and false empathy. They are suffering through a horrible situation, as are their families. And the answer is, on a human level, it's very hard not to feel that. You do not want to become cold and insensitive, but at the same time, you want to respect people's pain as they are experiencing it. And you also do not want to lose sight of the fact that the problem is the ego. You have to be really careful you do not cross that line and become callous and insensitive. Yet, for your own healing, you need to realize the patient has chosen that. Everything is a script, and as the Course in Miracles says, we are reviewing mentally what has gone by. If something is happening in my life, I chose it. It does not make me responsible for your ego. If I have just been raped by you, it does not mean that I am responsible for your attack on me, but it does mean that I am responsible for how I look at this. And if all this already happened and I am reviewing mentally what has gone by, why did I choose to review this again? There are always and only two reasons. The ego delights in my once again being an innocent victim, while to the Holy Spirit, it is another opportunity for me to finally learn the lesson that I am not the effect of someone else's sin. I am not the victim of the world I see. No matter what happens to my body or the bodies of my loved ones, I can still be at peace. I am in control of my mind. I am not in control of the world and cannot control other people, but I can control my mind. Lesson 34. I could see peace instead of this is one of those really important lessons. No matter what has happened to my body, whether I am quadriplegic because of a bomb that exploded in Iraq or something terrible has happened to my family, I am the healed mind. The healed mind, can still be peaceful. And I just wanted to, Ken uses that example of rape, and it's in his, in the collection of questions and answers that you can purchase from the foundation commercial. They're very good, very helpful. And if you read enough of them, it all is the same story, which it always is. And comes down to the love, the projection issues and getting to the love in your mind. But it's not that, for people who aren't course students or people who are beginning course students, we're not discounting that somebody was raped and that there's pain and there's everything that goes with that. And it's not that you asked to have a bad experience and then you get it. So that's it. I think that's really important to know. But, like in Keith's discussion yesterday, he was talking, he always talks about it. Every experience I have is for my healing. And some things are, I'm just going to judge for a moment and say some things seem very horrific. And it's sometimes hard for us to distance ourselves from, I did not ask for this, or there's a lot of issues that come up with crimes and violence, etc. And it's really, I don't want anybody to feel bad if they don't get that right now, because it takes a while to work with the course before any of this makes sense. And I think I probably am on the 40-year plan now. For years I've said the 30-year plan, but apparently maybe it's 40 or 50 or another lifetime, maybe. I'm getting there.
Can I say something here?
Yes, please do.
This is just so interesting because this point that Ken just made is, I think most Course in Miracles students do not know or actually understand this. We're reviewing something that happened long ago. We're reviewing something that is over. So the question is not, why would I choose to be raped? The question is, why do I want to look at that particular scene in the movie over and over again? Why do I keep going to replay to look at that scene? Because that's all I'm doing. Nothing is actually happening, or it actually did happen. It's all just this script that we wrote with every possible thing. What could happen if we were separate from God? If I was separate from God, I could get raped. And I could be murdered. I could become the King of England. Anything could happen if could be separate from God. The fact is, it's impossible. And the whole point of the course is to come to the place where we recognize it is impossible. It never happened. It could never have happened. And that ain't how God works. So I love that, the way that Ken put this, and I think that maybe the next few days that's going to be something on my mind, is that because we do say it, you know, I chose to see this, but we don't recognize, yes, I'm choosing to see this now. And why? Why do I want to imagine myself being victimized? Why do I want to imagine someone else being evil? Why would I want to imagine that, you know, any of these things? Why do I want to know these things? Because it's the only thing that's happening is my question is being answered. I'm being given, here it is, look at it, and now you tell me, why could I choose this instead of peace? And goes right back there to lesson 34. You know, if I could see peace instead of this, then what is it that I could actually see? And what I could actually see is it never happened and never could have happened. So thank you for letting me share. And I see Sharon has her hand up.
For me, it's always fear of love. It's always that. And I don't know that I'm fearful of love because I appear to be loving. But, you know, on my walk this morning, there were some memories that came up on the hatred that I had in my 40s, like really severe hatred. And that hatred was about me. Then there was a time in my life that I was in a postpartum depression. And honestly, I was projecting, you know, the Wicked Witch from The Wizard of Oz, because everybody looked like that. It was the weirdest thing because it was the stark hatred that I had for myself. But depression is always disordered thinking, but all thinking is disordered. So they would say to me, well, that's a depression. It's not, but that was showing me how much fear I have of love. Because that fear of love, otherwise we wouldn't be here. We're unraveling this belief that we are not able to accept love because we're fearful that God will annihilate us. But it's got to be, or at least I am, I'll speak for myself. But the fear is like the certainty comes in a little bit at a time. And I'm in a place now where certainty seems to be the gravitational pull now, where it's like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. This is silly. Like, why do I want to join in on nothing but garbage? It's what Lynn just said. It's already over. Now, if somebody's belaboring they want to be a victim when they're raped, and it appears that they are a victim when they're raped. However, it's all about the separation and condemnation and all of that. So anyway, over to you, Mars.
Yeah, I think anything we can use as an attack. You know, I'm in my ego because I see this as attack. I don't see the healing parts of this. I don't see the love. But that's what our brother is here to show us, is that you're either one or there's duality. And that's what we keep choosing, is duality. Okay, I'm going to go back to read. The real help would be some response on the part of the therapist. It does not have to be verbal, that allows me, if not today, perhaps tomorrow, to learn that I can be peaceful instead. I do not have to be angry. I do not have to feel that my life is shattered because my body has been shattered. If I am a professional who is confronting a person in this situation, at the same time that I am commiserating with the person's pain and the unfairness of what has happened on one level, on a deeper level of my mind, I want to be peaceful enough to say and mean, by my demonstration, you can learn the lesson of being peaceful. How you communicate that happy lesson relates to your skill as a therapist. Once again, I am certainly not talking about being callous and insensitive, nor hitting people over the head with metaphysical principles, but to be truly helpful means to help people in pain recognize on some level that this is a classroom they have chosen in order to learn that regardless of what has been done to the body, peace is a decision they can make. And my personal experience, the most recent personal experience with this was I think it was 2 years ago or 3. I was in a car accident where my I was hit twice. It was a fishtail situation when they hit the car and then the opposite ends of the cars bounced into each other. So my brain hit my skull 4 times. Boom, 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 boom. And that's why I made a little joke about having a brain injury earlier, because that is true. And I fight with it sometimes when I'm in EO. I go, why did this have to happen? Why did he go through the red light? Why was I, why was I in that spot of, I had to turn left because I was sitting in the middle of the intersection. And I have all these things that could have been different. And I try to replan how everybody could have done that differently. But that's what happened in that moment that I believe in, because I'm not a body, I am free, but I believe in that moment I was a body sitting in a car with, all this happening. So, and I look at how can that be? How can I take that experience and know that that's the experience I needed in some way to reach beyond that, to reach to that love? And at this point, I'm on the point where, yeah, you know what, if my brain went back and forth 4 times in my skull, I don't know what happened to that guy, because I was out of my car faster than he was. He was just in that time span, he couldn't even get out of his car. So looking at that and saying that is an experience that is helpful for me, sometimes it's very hard to do, and other times it just makes sense. It just is like, well, nothing different happened. That's what happened. That was that moment. And another thing about those Q&As that you could buy, the question and answers, is this is the only one I remember, question 666. Why do I remember that one? Is that we want a truck to plow into us. We want, as an ego, to be a victim of some type of assault in the world, whether it be a car accident, a rape, a horrible murder, whatever it is, all these things which we have laws about, right? We take care of that on the level of form in the world. But we also get, as course students or other students of different spiritualities, we get to look at why would I need that lesson? And the only answer really is to get to the love. So I am going to, where was I? Was I on Imagine the Incalculable Benefit? I think that's where I stopped. Anybody know?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just start up here. Imagine the incalculable benefit for suffering people to learn the lesson that will free them from the dream of brokenness and pain. Feeling sorry for them and reinforcing the fact that they are victims, while on the one hand may make them feel good and loved at the moment, will not help them awaken from the dream. And if that is your goal for yourself, why would that not be your goal for someone else? Again, I'm not talking about what you verbally say, and I'm certainly not saying you should be unkind and insensitive to other people any more than I would say you should go to a funeral and laugh and say, what death? What body in a coffin? That is not helpful. But in your mind, because you are a mind that yearns to be healed of the source of all pain. This is why you have to understand this from the perspective of the mind above the battleground, a mind that is choosing the world it experiences. The Course says, no one dies without his own consent. It is likewise not true that no one has an accident without his own consent, or boards an airplane that is going to crash without his own consent. This is not the consent of the person as a body, but as a decision-making mind. I cannot emphasize enough that you will not learn this course and understand it if you read it as a body. It can be understood only as a mind. Again, that is the crucial distinction between false and true empathy. The former perceives special bodies. The latter sees only the shared mind that has chosen pain instead of the joy of God. I'm pausing there in case there's any comments other than mine. Okay, I'm going to keep going then. A line from the workbook, if taken out of context, sounds horrific, saying that those who understand what forgiving means will laugh at pain and loss, and sickness and at grief, at poverty, starvation, and at death. This is not horrific when you understand its context. In fact, the words gentle laughter occur after that. On the level of the healed, hang on, I got pages stuck. The healed mind would laugh at the silliness of believing that God's son could be hurt in any way, shape, or form. How could what God created be hurt? What God did not create can indeed be hurt, because the thought that created him or miscreated him was a thought of hurt. However, the purpose of this course is to teach us we are minds, and what better way to teach and to learn than to be involved in a profession that deals with broken physical and emotional bodies. So often the question is asked, how can I be a doctor, work in an emergency room, etc., and practice this course that says I am not a body? How could I be a juror, a lawyer, a judge, or participate in any other part of a system that is all about judgment, when the course says I should not judge? Nevertheless, that is the perfect place to be, so you can learn and teach what it means to be without judgment. Being in a hospital is a perfect place to learn that you are not a body and other people are not bodies. It is the perfect classroom, because in the midst of psychological and physical pain, you're being peaceful and truly present to all those who suffer, patients and staff alike, teaches a wonderful lesson. You are helping them build a foundation so that when the time comes that they can really learn that they are not bodies, they will learn it. For example, your example of defenselessness and kindness is what helps them reach that point. That is the foundation. You want people to learn by your example that regardless of their situation, they can still be peaceful, and therefore are not justified in feeling unfairly treated or victimized. From the world's point of view, many people are clearly justified in feeling this way, but you want to help them leave that world. You want to help them remember they are a mind. Minds cannot hurt or be hurt. They cannot attack or be attacked. Only bodies can. I got to go back here. To the first part of that. You want people to learn by your example that regardless of their situation, they can still be peaceful and therefore are not justified in feeling unfairly treated. But as it stands, when we're in ego, we do feel justified in feeling unfairly treated. So sometimes the words in the course and the explanations are a little sticky, because I don't need to feel wrong about it. I can just say, in this moment, I feel justified, because that's what the ego does. You know, you get to the peace in your mind, the love in your mind, and then suddenly the ego is like, that's just not right. That's not what we do here. And the ego will attack us. And one of those attacks is, I feel, what I might tell myself in one of those attacks is, I feel unfairly treated. This should not be happening to me. And obviously, if I'm an ego, I'm wrong. But that person, whoever it is, still needs help getting back to that, to the love in their mind. And sometimes that takes a long time, just so we know that it doesn't necessarily, it is an instant. It's totally, you could have it in an instant, because the instant came and went. The tiny mad idea came and went, gone, over with. But it seems like we live it when we're in ego, we live there sometimes for, if you're counting years or months or days, it could seem to last a very long time, even though it was just an instant. Anybody else have any comments?
I know that Lynn wants to talk. I just want to say one of
Oh.
the most helpful reminders over and over is that I'm mind, because through the day, I realize nothing's real, but am I really seeing that there's only mind here? There's not really any bodies. Because when you think you're a body, that's a problem. Anyway, Lynn, go ahead.
Okay, great. This is really great. And honestly, I get this completely. This is absolutely the way that I experience when something goes wrong, like, I fall and break my shoulder and end up spending the night at the airport with a broken shoulder, and being in a lot of pain and, feeling, I could have, have gone, would really like become totally victim and totally, there could have been a lot of things happen. But because I have that peace, and it is an absolute peace, because of that peace, it's like, I knew everything was okay. And I knew everything that was happening was the best thing, the perfect thing. I absolutely connected with so many people, had so many incredible encounters with, agents at the airport, individual people. They saw me because I didn't know my shoulder was broken. I knew that something was really wrong with it, and it was really very painful, but I didn't know it was broken. And so I was continuing on my trip. And people, I was standing in line at the ticket counter, and a man went over and got a rolling chair and brought it to me so that I could, put my suitcase and stuff on it, so I wouldn't have to actually just stand there holding things. And what happens is it gave people a chance to be good. It gave a lot of people a chance to be really kind and really helpful. And because I was at peace about it and not, angry or, yelling at, the people at the station for, not putting a railing on these stairs so that, I would have noticed there were stairs there and not fallen down. I could have gone through a lot of stuff, but because I chose not to, even immediately, when I fell, I mean, two homeless guys who were sheltering behind the station, trying to get out of the snow, they ran over and helped me. They picked my stuff up for me. They helped me, they helped me into the station. It was like such an amazing, so many amazing things happened when I was in a place where I could have been really needy and uh angry, and so many things could have been happening, but because of that constant sense of peace that has just filled my consciousness, I never thought about any of those things. I just thought, wow, how wonderful. Everyone here loves me. Everyone is taking care of me. And the whole way, everything. I didn't want to, come on to brag about that, but I did want to come on and say that the state of mind, this constant connection, the state of mind of being at peace and connected, puts me in a position of being in service to everyone, because I'm not judging them. I'm not worrying about them or getting upset about things. When I see a problem, I have a clear mind. That's what when he's talking about working in the emergency room, and Byron Katie talks about this. If you're an emergency room physician, and you go into a panic when you see someone come in with their arm ripped off, and you become unable to operate or work because you're so upset for the other person, then you're not going to be able to help them at all. So my point is just very, uh, you know, it's being in that clear-minded, peaceful place that puts you in a place where you can actually be of service and actually be and actually receive the love from other people, receive the goodness, which gives them, it opens their hearts and helps them to move forward. So, I'm sure you felt bad for that guy who hit you. And I can tell by the way that you talk about it. You had empathy in your mind about, you were like, you jerk, what are you doing bouncing my brain around in my head? But the other thing too, just offshoot of that, a part of it might be to prove to you, Marcy, that what is happening to you has nothing to do with the brain or the body, and that your brain is not even necessary.
That's really good.
Anyway,
That's really good what you just said.
anyway,
That's really good.
go ahead, Sharon.
Yeah, what I loved, I'm going to say this. You are a living example because you have a lot of health issues, and I've never seen you say anything about them, which to me is more than commendable because I tend to talk about when I don't feel well. And it's when you see an example that's somebody who has health issues and doesn't talk about it, you're in spirit. It's like Gloria on Friday was teaching and she didn't feel well. And, I listened to that yesterday and I was in school on Friday, but I listened to partial on Friday too. She didn't feel well, but she got out of the way. If you get out of the way and you just stay in your truth, you're okay. It's just when you don't, when you think that the character means something, that's the problem I've always had. I think the character, well, I want to mean something. Of course, the ego wants to mean something. It doesn't want to leave. So it's just a matter of just slowing down and realizing that you're not this body and you're a mind. And that's where I think listening to teachings or reading just asking spirit all day long, you realize that if you're in a body, where would spirit be? You wouldn't be with spirit. But if you're in a mind, you're in God's mind, then of course spirit's here. So it'll make sense as we just slow down. Anyway, I think it's time for us to go to the next teaching. That was good, Lynn. And Marcy, I love when you are sharing with me. I do. I think you're just a beautiful, beautiful character.
Thank you. As is everybody else who's here.
I know, we're